Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in every woman's life when she realizes her strength doesn't come from how loudly she fights to keep someone, but from how gracefully she lets them go. You see, men may not always hear the words you say, but they will always feel the energy you leave behind. And one of the most powerful things a woman can do after a breakup, especially with a man who didn't see her worth, is to say very little. And say it with strength, because strength speaks louder than desperation. Desperation is loud. It sends paragraph after paragraph. It begs for closure. It keeps asking why. But when a man sees that, he doesn't feel regret. He feels power. He knows you're still emotionally available. He knows he still has a space in your heart. That desperation feeds his ego. And let me tell you, a man will never regret losing a woman if she's still available while he's gone. He'll assume you're waiting. That one text from him could pull you right back. So why would he regret it? Now let's flip that. Imagine he gets nothing for weeks. No messages, no calls, no Instagram likes. You've gone quiet. But then out of nowhere, he receives one message, not asking for him back, not blaming him, not trying to fix things, but one calm sentence that says, "Thank you for the lesson. I've grown. I wish you the best." That one text carries a weight no essay ever could, because what it says beneath the surface is, I'm no longer tied to you. I don't need answers. I found peace without you. It says you're not hurting anymore, not in the same way. It says you've taken your power back, and nothing rattles a man more than realizing the woman who once cried for him is now completely calm in his absence. See, a man expects emotion. He expects you to be upset. When you're not, when you hit him with grace instead of bitterness, that's when it lands. That's when he replays the conversations in his head. That's when he starts wondering if he messed up. Not because you begged, but because you didn't. Your silence and strength forced him to see your value in a way your words never could. Let's talk real. Men respect peace, they respect composure, and they regret losing women who walk away with both. When you're crying, cursing, texting nonstop, it's noise to them. But when you're silent and then speak just once with strength, maturity, and peace, that's unforgettable. That's what lingers in his mind when he's alone at night. That's what makes him check your stories, wonder who you're talking to, imagine you moving on. So how do you get that strength? It's not overnight. It starts the moment you decide to choose yourself. When you wake up and say, I deserve to be loved, not just tolerated. When you realize your worth was never tied to how much someone stayed, but in how you stood when they walked away. That's when the power comes. That's when you begin to heal. And when you heal, something beautiful happens. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop chasing. You stop needing them to understand what they lost. Because deep down you know who you are. You know what you brought to the table. You know what kind of woman you are. And the moment you know that, that's when he starts to know it too. That single strong text is not about revenge. It's not about getting back at him. It's about closure for you. It's about reclaiming your narrative. It's saying, I'm not bitter, I'm better. And let me tell you, when a man reads that, it hits him harder than any insult could. Because now he's left with the reality that you're no longer seeking him, you're seeking peace. And that makes you unforgettable. You see, a man remembers a woman who kept her dignity when he expected chaos. He remembers a woman who didn't fall apart in his absence, but flourished. He remembers the woman who didn't fight to be seen because she already saw herself. And that's where regret is born. Not from your pain, but from your growth. So if you want him to regret losing you, don't write him a letter. Don't send him paragraphs explaining your heart. Don't keep checking if he's seen your story. Just be still, be strong, heal. And when the time comes, if you ever speak again, let your words be few but powerful. Let them come from a place of confidence, not chaos, from healing, not hurting, from peace, not pain. Because the most powerful woman in the world is not the one who begs to be chosen, but the one who chooses herself. And when you do that, when you rise in silence and walk with grace, that's the moment he sees exactly what he lost. One of the deepest truths about human behavior is that people don't truly understand the value of what they have until it's gone. And when it comes to relationships, that lesson can be painfully sharp. For men especially, there's often a delayed reaction when it comes to loss. He may seem unaffected at first. You might look at him and think, how can he be okay while I'm sitting here broken? But what you need to understand is this: some men don't feel the loss in the moment. They feel it later, when it hits them that you're really not coming back. And what triggers that realization most often is silence. Not just any silence, but purposeful, dignified silence. Now, this silence doesn't mean you're sitting around waiting. It doesn't mean you're holding your breath, hoping he'll notice. No, real silence is active. It's powerful. It's what you do when you've accepted that your peace is worth more than your pain. It's the space where you stop arguing, stop proving, stop hoping, and start healing. And when that silence is paired with self-respect and emotional growth, it becomes the loudest statement you'll ever make. When a man loses a woman who truly loved him, who showed up, gave her all, cared deeply, he doesn't feel that loss when she's still in his orbit. He doesn't feel it when she's texting him about what went wrong, or when she's still checking in just to see how he's doing. As long as you're still emotionally invested and available, part of him still feels in control. It's not until you fully detach that the regret begins to settle in. And that regret is different. It doesn't come from you being angry or dramatic. It comes from you disappearing, not in a ghosting way, but in a way that says, I've moved on in peace. That absence, that strength, that quiet, it speaks. It makes him wonder. It makes him think. It makes him sit in his own silence and replay what he took for granted. And when that happens, he doesn't just miss the messages or the calls. He misses the energy, the love, the comfort, the way you made him feel like the best version of himself. You see, people don't miss people. They miss the feeling they had when they were around them. They miss how they were seen. And when a man begins to feel the absence of that, when he starts to notice that your energy is no longer nurturing his ego, that's when the loss becomes real. That's when it hits. And it never hits all at once. It creeps in during quiet moments, during late nights, during songs that remind him of you, during celebrations where you're not present. And in all those moments, your silence echoes louder than any text ever could. But let's be real, it's hard to stay silent when you're hurting. It's hard not to reach out when you miss them. It's hard not to remind them of what they threw away, but here's the truth. Real power comes from restraint, from choosing yourself even when it would be easier to chase, from knowing that if you have to beg for someone to see your worth, they were never truly worthy of you in the first place. That's not arrogance, that's self-worth. That's understanding that the right man will never have to lose you to value you. When you master the art of silence, you also master the art of control. Not control over others, but over yourself. You gain control over your emotions. You stop reacting and start responding. You begin to move with purpose instead of pain. And in that state, everything changes. Your energy shifts. You no longer seek validation from someone who walked away. You start to validate yourself. You start to rebuild your life, your confidence, your joy, without needing anyone else to complete you. And as that transformation happens, you'll notice something. The power dynamic shift. Suddenly, he's the one checking your story. He's the one asking mutual friends about you. He's the one wondering if you're with someone new, because silence is not absence, it's presence. It's presence in his mind. It's a statement that says, I'm not available for confusion. I'm not available for half love. I'm not available for anything less than what I deserve. It's important to remember that regret doesn't always mean reconciliation. Just because he regrets losing you doesn't mean he's ready to give you what you need. And that's okay, because your growth wasn't about him. It was about you. It was about proving to yourself that you can survive without the person you thought you couldn't live without. That's power. That's healing. That's freedom. So yes, one simple, powerful text may trigger his regret, but it's the silence before and after that makes that text matter. It's the way you removed yourself without drama. It's the way you chose peace over chaos. It's the way you stopped making him the center of your universe and started becoming the center of your own. That's what makes him think. That's what makes him feel. That's what makes him regret. Ladies, let me tell you something. You never have to scream to be heard. Sometimes all it takes is a whisper of self-worth and a silence so steady it shakes the ground he stands on. He may not admit it. He may never say it out loud, but deep down he'll know. He'll know that he lost someone rare, someone kind, someone who had the courage to walk away not because she stopped caring, but because she started caring about herself more. And that realization, that's what leaves a lasting mark. That's what he'll remember when he thinks back on you. Not the arguments, not the breakdowns, but the moment you said nothing and meant everything. Let's take a moment to talk about something many people overlook. The emotional intelligence of men and how it often matures after the relationship ends. You see, when a woman walks away from a man, especially when she does it with grace, without insults, without slamming doors, there's a different kind of impact. And that impact doesn't hit in the heat of the moment, it hits later. It hits when he's alone, when he's scrolling through his phone and your name doesn't light it up anymore. When he's out with friends laughing on the outside but feeling empty inside because your energy is no longer part of his world. That's when the regret starts creeping in. And here's where the third key point comes into full power. He starts to compare every woman to you, and none of them measure up. When you've loved him in a way that was real, when you supported his dreams, listened to his struggles, respected his space, challenged him to grow, you're not easily replaced. A woman who brings peace, fire, understanding, and ambition into a man's life is unforgettable. And let's be honest, he may try to move on quickly. He might even post new photos, act unbothered, pretend like he's doing fine. Behind that performance is a quiet search for you in everyone else. He's chasing your vibe, your conversation, your laughter. He's looking for that comfort, that spark, that loyalty, but he can't recreate it because that energy was yours and no one else carries it the same way. At first, he might enjoy the novelty of something new, a new face, a new voice, someone who doesn't know his flaws yet. But over time, the excitement fades. The connection feels shallow. The communication lacks depth. And that's when he starts to look back, not just because of what he lost, but because of what he can't seem to find again. That's when he realizes she was rare, not perfect, not flawless, but real. And real is hard to come by. Men don't always recognize quality in the moment. Sometimes ego, pride, or immaturity clouds their judgment. But life has a way of teaching them. When the noise settles, when the temporary fades, when the silence grows louder, they begin to reflect. They remember how you spoke life into them when they doubted themselves, how you celebrated their wins like they were your own, how you stood by them when they were still trying to figure things out. And when they remember, they start to feel it, regret. Not the regret of losing a convenience, but the regret of losing a connection. And not just any connection, but one that made them feel safe, inspired, seen, and challenged. They miss the conversations that went deep, the way you looked at them with belief in your eyes, the way you laughed at their jokes, even when they weren't funny. The little things, the morning texts, the check-ins, the I'm proud of you. They missed the woman who gave her all, not because she was desperate, but because she loved with intention. And here's where it gets powerful. The more he compares, the more he understands that love isn't about physical beauty, expensive gifts, or constant excitement. It's about energy. It's about presence. It's about how someone makes you feel consistently. It's about who brings you peace in chaos, who listens without judgment, who knows your weaknesses but still sees your worth. That kind of love leaves a mark on a man's soul. And once it's gone, everything else feels a little emptier. Now, you might be wondering, if he realizes all this, why doesn't he come back? Well, sometimes pride stands in the way. Sometimes fear of rejection stops him. Sometimes he knows he's not ready to be the man you deserve. Or worse, he realizes too late that you've already healed, already moved on, already discovered your own worth. And that scares him, because now you're no longer the same woman he left. You've grown, you've elevated, you've stopped waiting, and that's where your strength shines the most. Not in how you held on, but in how you let go. Not in how much you loved him, but in how much you learned to love yourself after he left. That glow up, that peace you found, that smile that doesn't need validation, that's the result of a woman who reclaimed her power. And that's what truly haunts him. Not just losing you, but knowing he'll never find that version of you again. Men often realize the value of a good woman only after they experience what it's like to be without her. And no matter how many people they date, no matter how much they distract themselves, they will always carry the weight of what if in the back of their mind. What if I had been more mature? What if I had appreciated her more? What if I had communicated better? That what if is the heaviest kind of regret, because it's rooted in the knowledge that he had a real one and he let her slip away. So let me remind you, you don't have to chase him. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't need to send 1,000 messages explaining how good you were to him. Your silence, your elevation, your peace, they say everything. He'll feel it when he sees you glowing without him. He'll feel it when you stop reacting. He'll feel it when he realizes that every new connection feels like a copy of what he had, and none of them come close. Keep shining, keep growing, and remember, the man who truly values you will never have to lose you to see your worth. Sometimes the most powerful message you can send is silence. Not the kind that's cold or petty, but the kind that speaks volumes. Because silence after heartbreak, silence after being let down, silence after loving deeply and being taken for granted, that silence carries weight. It's in that quiet absence that a man begins to understand. Not because you shouted, not because you begged, not because you chased, but because you simply stopped showing up where you were no longer valued. And that, more than anything, is what makes him regret losing you. You see, when a woman decides to walk away, not out of anger, but out of self-respect, she changes the entire dynamic. No texts, no calls, no emotional explosions, just stillness, a disappearance, a withdrawal of energy. That shift creates a vacuum, and in that vacuum, the man who once felt so secure in her love is left wondering what happened. That wondering leads to reflection, and reflection leads to realization. Because in the noise of daily life and the distractions of the world, we often take for granted what feels consistent. But when that consistency vanishes, suddenly everything becomes clear. What becomes clear is this. Her silence means she's done hoping he'll change. It means she's done explaining how she deserves to be treated. It means she's no longer available for bare minimum effort. That silence says, I loved you enough to stay, but I love myself too much to keep doing this. It is in that silence that he starts to miss her presence, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. He misses the way she made him feel seen, the way she understood him, the way her energy lifted him without needing anything in return. He remembers the way she would check in when no one else did, how she believed in his potential, even when he didn't believe in himself, how her words soothed his fears, how her love made him feel like he could take on the world. But now, there's nothing. No good morning texts, no I miss you messages, no random songs or inside jokes sent his way, just silence. And it stings, not because she's being cruel, but because he realizes just how much he depended on that connection. Men often aren't taught how to process deep emotions in the moment. They distract, they detach, they avoid. But silence doesn't allow for that. Silence forces them to sit with their own thoughts, to ask the hard questions. Did I push her away? Why didn't I appreciate her when I had her? Why can't I stop thinking about her now? And that's where the regret really blooms, not in the loss itself, but in the awareness that he caused it, that he had something rare, something real, and he let it slip through his fingers. Let's be clear, this isn't about revenge. This isn't about playing games. This is about emotional clarity. When a woman chooses silence, it's not to hurt him, it's to protect herself. It's to regain her peace. It's to let him experience the weight of what he lost so she can heal without the confusion of mixed signals. And as she heals, he struggles because he finally sees her as the prize she always was. But now she's unavailable. Now she's evolved. Now she's thriving without him. That silence doesn't just make him regret, it humbles him. It shows him that love is not something to be assumed, but something to be nurtured. That affection is not infinite, but earned. That attention is not owed, but appreciated. And perhaps for the first time, he understands that loyalty is not a given, it's a choice she made every day until she finally chose herself. Meanwhile, the woman he lost is growing. She's smiling more, sleeping better, pursuing her dreams, and surrounding herself with people who pour into her the way she used to pour into him. She's no longer explaining herself, no longer defending her emotions, no longer questioning her worth. Her silence becomes her sanctuary, her freedom, her power. And the more she glows, the deeper his regret grows, because now he realizes that she wasn't asking for too much, she was just asking the wrong person. He sees her out in the world, shining in her own lane, unbothered and unreachable, and it hits him. She's not the same woman who waited by the phone, who cried herself to sleep, who begged him to communicate. She's stronger now, softer with herself, harder to reach, wiser with her heart. That's the final blow, because he realizes that even if he tried to come back, he wouldn't be coming back to the woman he left. He'd be facing a version of her that no longer needs him. And that's the kind of regret that lingers. Not just losing her, but losing the chance to grow with her. Losing the love that would have celebrated his success, stood by him in failure and built something lasting. That's what silence reveals. It's not just absence, it's transformation. It's the sound of a woman remembering who she is, reclaiming her energy, and refusing to waste it on someone who couldn't see her value the first time. So if you ever find yourself in that position, heart heavy, love unreciprocated, effort unnoticed, remember this: your silence will speak louder than anything you could ever say. It will echo in the empty spaces of the life he chose without you. And as he searches for that feeling again, he'll come to understand that what you gave was more than love. It was legacy.